There was a time where I had never heard the word depersonalization. I didn't know what it meant. But suddenly I feel like most people you meet, or most people I meet anyway, not only are they familiar with the word, but they relate to it. Now I guess I'm assuming that by depersonalization what we mean is disembodiment, like we feel like we're not sitting within ourselves, like we're in some sort of like third person perspective observing our lives as they unfold, but not actually partaking in it. It's odd to me that so many people now report feeling a sense of depersonalization, sometimes chronically, at the same time that we're able to be seen by more people than ever. Because interaction with another person anchors us into our body and into our experience. Like if somebody calls you by name, you're in conversation with a friend and they're looking you in the eyes, responding to what you say, it's hard not to be there. And the behavior that I think that this depersonalization is pushing us towards is the pursuit of visibility. And it feels good to be witnessed and acknowledged and mirrored. And I think it's because there's a part of us that doesn't necessarily believe that we exist or that our lives impact the world until we encounter moments that prove that we do, like the conversations you would have with a friend. When someone notices you, then there's no denying that you are real and you're participating in life. Or maybe somebody references a thing that you said a week ago, you know? It feels, I think, especially good to us to know that we occupy a space in the minds of other people. That's like, oh, guess I'm real. Who'd have thought? And what we get from social media is kind of a version of that. Like you get a like or a comment or a heart or whatever, positive affirmation symbol for that particular platform. And it feels good. It feels like affirmation, but it's not exactly the same thing. Like you don't actually know what that person was doing when they liked your picture or your video or your whatever. They're probably just like sitting on the toilet while at work with no actual need to use the restroom. So there's this like missing piece to it. It's less like recognition or validation and more just pure visibility. You were seen, you know? But you weren't even like really seen. It was like this like virtual snapshot of you was seen, but it doesn't satiate. It's the nutritional equivalent of Twinkies. But we will risk a lot to get it. We'll risk social humiliation. We'll risk our reputation. And it's worth asking why. Why is that so important to us? We want to know that we exist and that our existence at least has an impact on the world. But if you spend a long enough time without that validation, it becomes a lot easier to imagine that maybe you're not real. Maybe your life doesn't have an impact. And from that perspective, it's easy to feel separated from the rest of the world. Like a ghost observing itself. I guess the evidence for this is just take a second to think about how disproportionate our reaction is to acknowledgement. Like when somebody remembers our name. Like this might even just start, when you're a baby and you smile and somebody smiles back. And it's like you're teaching your nervous system that your actions reach beyond you. And then maybe our whole lives just kind of become increasingly elaborate versions of that. I don't really know what it's like to live a particularly engaged life because I'm in it just like everyone else. I'm living in this digital world. I'm even contributing to it. But I look at someone like my grandmother, and this is like a, old Japanese lady who doesn't know how to use a computer even, doesn't even have a cell phone. And when I would spend time with her, her whole day, like beginning to end, is so engaged. It's so physical. Like she wakes up and then she has this kind of elaborate um, routine that involves prayer. And then she cooks a meal for herself and then she'll do the dishes, but she has a dishwasher, but she won't use it. She insists on washing the dishes by hand. And then she'll spend the majority of the day in her garden. And think about that for a second, because like she'll put a tremendous amount of effort into maintaining her plants, into planting things and then maintaining those plants. And then eventually, she's got a friggin' cucumber. You know? And that cucumber only exists because she exists to put the effort into creating it. When she eats food that she grew herself, like, it's hard not to be connected to that experience. To feel in some small way, maybe not even small, but to feel like, damn, dude, I did this. I mean, she's always done it, so she probably doesn't think of it like that. That's just me. My life isn't like that. I don't have a large garden that I maintain every day. It's hard for me not to like frequently compare what my life is like or the lives of the people around me against my grandmother's, because she's someone who like I just admire more than anybody else. I look at her life and I think like, yeah, this lady's doing it right. She never seems bothered. I never have seen her in a moment seeming as though she needed or wanted or was seeking attention from anyone. She's just doing her thing. She's living her life. It's like that part of the equation is solved for her. Like when you kneel down to push dirt around, you're immediately seeing that your life has an effect on the world and you have control over that effect. But then I think about like when I was young and I worked retail, and I thought I had a terrible I thought I had something wrong with me because I couldn't keep a job for very long. because it was a matter of time before I had some sort of existential crisis about what is the point of all this? What does it mean? And it wasn't until I got a job as a cook that that changed. It was the first time that I actually stayed somewhere for a significant amount of time. Because when you take a batch of like fresh ingredients and prepare them to the point of a meal, it feels good to take responsibility for that. Well, I mean, when it tastes good. And when the food did taste good, I could say, I did that. In retail, if someone really liked that shirt, cool. I didn't do it. When I was in my early 20s, I was obsessed with asking everybody that I met, what is the most important lesson that you've learned in your life? And then I was lucky enough to work at a nursing home for a while. So once I got comfortable enough with one of the residents, I would ask them, what's the most important piece of advice you have, or the most important lesson that you've learned in your life? And one woman, took me really seriously, and she kind of sat and got quiet and thought about it. And eventually she said, always remember a name. Always remember a name. It was in New Jersey. That has probably gotten me farther in life than anything else. And I thought, that's really good advice. I'm going to try to do that. I wish I could tell you that I'm a master at remembering names now, but I am still terrible at it. I just don't got one of those name brains, But I think it's a perspective that matters, because it's really easy to roll an eye or get annoyed with people who are obviously seeking attention. I see someone who is doing something especially cringy online, and sometimes it might be me. It might be me right now. I try to think that, oh man, this person probably really needs this. Because we don't really know how starved everyone is for this. It's easy to assume that everybody's getting enough, But you don't know. Like, someone might be on month 6 of, no recognition, no acknowledgement. It makes it a little bit easier to empathize. But it's not something that you only get from other people. There's other ways. There's my grandmother in her garden. I always like to create things, whether it's painting or writing a song or making a video. And when you make something, the end result is evidence that your life has impact. For me, honestly, pretty much everything I've made is just a way of me saying, Jeremiah was here. It's like people carving their initials into the bark of a tree. And maybe we're all just doing some version of that, Just trying to create proof. Not only that we exist, but that we did exist. That we were here. There is a tiny fruit fly that I don't know. I've never known him. But suddenly, I come to make a video and he shows up for a cameo. I'm just going to try to just not be bothered. Great.